Kia ora and welcome back to breakfast. It's 6 minutes to 7. Every day, on average, 8 people in Aotearoa will be diagnosed with bowel cancer. 3 people will die from it. Something we don't talk much about, but we need to. I lost my brother to the disease almost 3 years ago now, a 2-year battle that left our whānau devastated. Our next 2 guests have had their lives impacted also in incredibly real, personal ways, and now they're leading the charge to raise awareness and help support those living with the disease. We're really grateful to welcome Bowel Cancer New Zealand Ambassador Kevin and bowel cancer survivor Tamsyn Cornwall. Morena korua, thank you so much for being here with us, but also for being brave enough to have this conversation, which is so deeply, deeply personal to both of you. Tamsyn, can I start with you? You've just had your last lot of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Go you. Well done.
Yay.
Yeah.
Finally, 6 months of chemo, and I also had surgery which removed my whole colon. So yeah, it's been really, really tough, and I think it's such an important thing to talk about because it's so taboo to talk about poo, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And also, we think about bowel cancer kind of, you know, getting it later in life.
Yeah.
So tell us your story.
So I've had inflammatory bowel disease for 22 years, so my colon has been quite angry per se, and I know or have known that bowel cancer was always a higher risk for me, but I really never expected to hear those words, you have cancer at 30. And it just left me quite heartbroken and distraught. And I just remember crying in the room, just your head's going everywhere, right? Because it's something that you can't really prepare yourself for ever. But yeah, I think I'm really grateful for the medical professionals that I've had along the way, and support crew, and just, family and friends who have been just beyond amazing.
Because your mum was with you, right?
Yeah.
During that. Yeah.
It was quite surreal too, because we were in level 3 lockdown, and when I had my colonoscopy and tests and was then admitted to hospital, nobody was allowed in, and then they kind of rang me and were like, are you going to bring your support person? And I was like, okay, something's seriously wrong, but very lucky my mum was there with me at the time.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Kevin, I want to ask you about your story, because this was your mum, right?
Yes, my mum was 70 years old. She was very fit and well, and we had a lovely Christmas. But she'd been having some symptoms, and she didn't quite know where to place them. She was going to the GP. She had a sore stomach. She was going to the loo, and it wasn't the same. She was struggling, and they didn't quite know what it was. But after Christmas, she called me up to say she was going to take herself to hospital because she was feeling so sick. And she went in, and she never came out. She got a scan and found she had stage 4 bowel cancer, and there was nothing they could do at that point.
And she didn't know at any point, in terms of the symptoms, were there signs for your mum?
She had the classic symptoms, and now in retrospect, we knew she had blood in her stools. She had major changes to her bowel movements, like she was feeling kind of obstructed, pain as well. But there are a few things that can be that, and it was just taking time to move through the process, and I don't think she was pushing as much as she could to get an answer, and we were trying to help her through it, but it was left too late. That was the problem. That's the mad thing about bowel cancer. If you catch it early, you're fine.
Yeah, and I guess that's the biggest part of this conversation too, is what would your advice be to people who not really sure, 100% sure what it is? Because that's what we need to be talking about, right?
Yeah, I think it's really about being aware of what your own normal is, and then if things change, are you in pain? Are you experiencing needing to use the loo a lot more often or frequently? Is there blood? And are there lumps? Again, it's tricky because we all have different normals, but I think it's,
You think to go to the GP. And keep pushing. For an answer, particularly if your symptoms don't go. I mean, it was wonderful the way they caught you because you had other symptoms as well that were similar, but you had luckily had good care.
Yeah.
And there are tests now. There's the screening. program.
Yes. Yeah,
But
there is.
tell me, Jenny-May, how about your story though?
Yeah, with my brother, it was for 2 years. I was in the room when he was told.
Okay.
And so, as soon as you started talking about that, really, I went back to that space.
Yeah.
But he had symptoms, but just was, I guess, I don't know, too afraid.
Young. He's 54.
He's 54, too afraid to go and find out exactly what it is. And I guess that's part of my message too as an ambassador for our fundraiser that's coming up next month, Move Your Butt, is around if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your family because of the impacts. I'm left behind, so I know what those impacts are on the rest of us. So if you can't do it for yourself in terms of getting tested, then do it for your family, do it for those that you love. So we're going to be doing different, what should we call it, challenges, I guess, next month in terms of fundraising. But you're going to do, even though you've just finished, and you're still going to do a challenge for Move Your Butt.
Little bits, working my way up, getting stronger, even just going for a walk, going to the beach, little bits of yoga flows. Just gentle exercise for me because I am still very much recovering.
Yeah. What about, what are you doing?
My friends won't give me any money unless they see me suffer.
Good. Yep, I like that.
I've decided I'm going to do 200 press-ups each day.
Amazing.
For the month of
filming
June.
everyone. Yeah. So
Go you. Well, I've decided that I'm going to do 54 wall balls, and Maddie's actually going to give us a demo a little bit later on. Well, both of us are going to do this later on, but it's doing something every single day that's manageable, but it is a challenge, right? And it's around awareness and also fundraising because we know that Bowel Cancer New Zealand needs that funding to help people who are currently battling with bowel cancer. Anyway, you two, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I know the story, and so I really appreciate you both giving us your time, telling us your stories. And Tamsyn, where are you? What's happening now for you?
So I'm meeting with my surgeons again later this week to have another conversation about what's next for me, and then I'll have another scan in about 6 months. So it's interesting being in that kind of limbo of
holding almost, isn't it? Yeah. Well, Tamsyn, thank you so much for being brave to come into this space and have this really, really important conversation. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Tamsyn. And Kevin, thank you for telling us about your mum too. Really, much love to you both. Thank you so much. Tamsyn Cornwall and Kevin Bigger, bowel cancer ambassadors. Thank you.